This One's Human video is all about the best way to grow crops for week 2 and phase 2. If you need a guide for week 1, then check out this video that I made, phase 1 garden guide. It's called How to Automate a Garden in Phase 1. Just click the description, go down to guides, and there will be a link called phase 1 gardening guide. Check out that video. This video, though, is about phase 2 or week 2 through week 6 of a server. Here's what we'll be covering in the video: how to automate the entire crop growing process if you don't want to touch it at all, the deviation odds, the best fertilizer with all the math proving what is the best fertilizer to use, and there is one grand champion. I'm going to explain that later in the vid. How to make the base. It's super easy, compact. Anyone should be able to build this. The irrigation, the lighting, planter boxes, all of that's explained, as well as the deviants that help you grow crops, a minimalist base design, and how to make it, the best crops to grow for energy links, or for whatever build you're running. I'm going to cover all the crops for every build in the game. So before I teach you how to build this base and all of the math behind crop growing, I need to explain to you just how automation works in Phase 2. In Phase 2, you unlock a few things. You unlock these little sprayers, and these are called automatic irrigation facility. You also unlock up top here, we have what's called a grow light. These two main things are what's going to not only keep your crops watered absolutely perfectly, they will also allow your crops to have the perfect lighting 24/7, so you're never reliant on the sun or cloudy days or anything of the sort. But I'm also going to teach you in this part of the video, and if you already know how to do this, you can skip ahead, that's totally fine, how water flow works and how electricity works, and how to hook all of this up so that it is pretty much completely fully automatic, unless you live in a desert, in which case you will manually have to grab dirty water and put them in a water tank. So let's start from the top and work our way down. Now, crop watering mechanics is the very first thing that I want to talk to you about. And in order for you to understand, I need you to just understand the range of the automatic irrigation facilities. So the way these work is, think of this like a grid. When you place one of these bad boys down, they can reach 3 tiles in a 4-directional way. So let me explain. So this one will water this planter, and this one right here. But it will not water this one. It will diagonally, it will only water 2 planters. So if I go this way, this is diagonal one direction and diagonal one more direction. So for this base design, just because there are glitches and sometimes the game is not perfect with its watering range, I don't rely on it to water the 3rd crop in the, like, X and Y axis of sorts, okay? So instead, we are watering 2 diagonal. We're essentially watering a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 5x4 square of sorts of crops. And with 2 of these water irrigations, we can cover an entire floor. I'll be talking about lighting in just a minute. Lighting is very, very similar, but now that you understand how and why these things have the range that they do, let's talk about the target irrigation. So if I get close to this, you'll see 70 target irrigation. And what that means is that these things will continuously spray water all the time, forever, but the crops, when you plant a seed, will only stay at 70 irrigation. And there's a reason why I have it set to 70. I'm going to go over a big chart later about optimizing your crop growing in the video, which will tell you basically there's a sweet spot. There's a number that almost all crops can follow up by, and you can grow anything with these settings. And I'll just tell you the settings is 70 on irrigation and 80 on lighting. Now, there are 3 crops in the game that don't follow this rule, and we'll talk about that later in the video. But essentially, having these set at 70 and having a continuous water supply with these water pumps, you can see here that this cord, this thicker cord, you can see how there's like a shimmering light going downwards. That is the flow of water. Don't look at me trying to deconstruct the wall here. Look at the wires. There are some wires which are electrical, we'll go over that in a bit, but the ones with the shimmering light flowing downward, that is the flow of water. And you'll see that each one of these is connected to a pipe, or, a pump, I guess, and that means they are continuously getting water. And when I do have crops planted, these things will be on all the time. Here is the needed items for the entire base, and we'll go over this again when we build the base, but essentially we're using 5 water tanks, 4 osmosis water purifiers, and you can use rain collectors, but I live in the desert and these things, this is 3 days of 3 days of real life playtime, 126 dirty water. So you will need to go to a river, because I live in an oil zone. I can't pump water with water pumps. So I just go to the nearby river and scoop up dirty water, and then I throw it in these tanks. And you can see that this one is actually empty. I haven't tended to this in a few days because I haven't been growing anything. But I have a large crate with dirty water, which I can throw into these water tanks. And now here is how to connect things. So you need to connect your water storages and your purifiers before you worry about connecting them to your irrigation systems. And again, you can skip ahead if you already figured this out. It's basic gamer stuff. So you're going to have, on the very roof of your base, you're going to have 3 water storage tanks, water tanks. And you're going to push your build menu button, and you're going to aim at the bottom of the tank and push your V button to connect pipe, and then you're just going to click anywhere on the osmosis water purifiers. You're going to connect all 3 of your storage tanks to all 4 of your purifiers. There's a lot of wires, I know. Don't daisy chain them. You don't want to do that. You want to connect them each individually. Then you're going to connect all 4 of your purifiers. You can click anywhere, it doesn't matter. And then you're going to click the very top of a water tank below the water purifiers. The reason why is that water flows downward. In order to get water to flow upward, it requires a special building that also requires energy, and you don't want to do that. You just want to have it flowing downwards. It's just more efficient that way. So by clicking the top, the pipes are connected to the top to fill up the tank. Then you're going to click this tank on the bottom, push your V button, and then connect this to another tank down below on the top. And then that is how you set up your water flow. So what happens is all the water gets purified, it flows into this tank, which is full at the moment. And you can see that it's still getting filled up. There's still water being purified and filling it up. And whenever this tank is full, it will start filling up that tank. But these tanks are connected to our irrigation system. So the way this works is I have 4 floors, and each of them have 2 irrigation systems. So these irrigation systems on the topmost floor, unfortunately, are so high up that they need to be connected to these 2 purifiers. So one purifier connects to one, and you just open your build menu, click the attach or connect pipe, and then you run over and you connect the pipe to your irrigation system. So you can see here, if I follow this pipe, it is connected directly to the purifier behind this wall. And that's for the first floor, or the top floor, rather. So one purifier here and one purifier here that is the highest up purifier. Then when we go down a floor, this one here is connected to this water tank. So this water tank is connecting both of these irrigation systems. And then there's a floor right here as well, which is also connected to that same water purifying tank. And then this purifying tank is connected to the bottom floor's irrigation system. And with that, all you have to do is power it up. So how do we power this? Now, this space requires 86 power to function, and it's an all-in-one base. I highly recommend that you build this on an alt account. As you can see, I am on an alt account. This character is level 25. His name is SwolpEdgy Alt, whatever. And yeah, it's just a small little plot. It's not even extended. But in order to get at least 86 watts of power, all you have to do is upgrade your mimetics until you can build, where is it at? This one right here, the advanced solar generator. And you'll be able to build, once you've unlocked the tree, you can build, what, 5 or 6 of these. But one of my characters had the perk to make the solar generators worth 25 watts. And so that's why you can see on the base here, I'm using just the basic ones because they are giving 25 watts of power. You can also use electric eels, but that you really shouldn't for this base. We're going to talk about deviants later. You really want room for 20 of these buzzy bees, and they're really easy to farm. And I wish you could just kill them because they're so cute looking, but it's so cute, I want to die. Or it's so fluffy. I don't remember the quote. I don't watch Despicable Me. Anyway, and that's a lie. I watched it last night. It was stupid. They didn't even like sum up the ending. What a crappy film. Worst Minions movie ever. Anyway, how do you connect these? Once you build your solar panels, all right, or whatever generator you want, you push your build button and then you attach wire. Now, you're going to attach a wire to every single one of your irrigation machines and your grow lights. Okay, they don't take much power. They take 1 watt each. You need to connect your power to all of your water purifiers, all 4 of them. All right. And then I also recommend that you have a fridge and at least two fermenting barrels. I forget exactly what they're called. I'll show you what the brewing barrel. These bad boys. So 2 brewing barrels will absolutely if you farm 1 hour of wheat and corn in the wilds, you can fill these bad boys up in 1 hour. So that's why I only have 2 of them. And then you want a fridge to store your extra crops in case you don't use the growshroom method and you accidentally open the growshroom cage. I'm going to talk more about that in the video later, but fridges also, they're just nice to have. They're just great for storing food. So that's the electricity part. It's pretty much self-explanatory. Now we're going to talk about how to build this bad boy, and then after that I'm going to talk about why we built it in this very specific way. So the number 1 recommendation that I can tell you right now is make this on an alt account, and the reason why is that this does take up a lot of room, it takes up a lot of power, it takes up all of your deviants, and so making it on an alt account allows you to have 20 deviants at work without sacrificing any power for things that you might want, like crafting benches and stuff. It's a very small design. You can see here, which I can't turn on flight mode. Hold on. This is the actual alt character's land. So this is a defense base. I've made a video about this, and this video will teach you how to do 40 level 3 Cortexes completely AFK where the turrets do all the work, and nothing gets destroyed. But as you can see here, let me just fly up. You can see that, you know, this is a very small base design. Now, these are big bases. These are 4 big bases. And this was a big base, but channel members know what happened here, maybe. But you can see this is a small little square. And, of course, this is a small little square because you want a small base for base defense. So compared to the big one, it saves a lot of room. And so if you want to build this on a big plot, you absolutely can. But it's not necessary to. I don't even recommend that you do it just to save space. And it's a tiny, highly efficient, hyper-efficient base that is more than enough crops for even an entire hive. You can be the crop-growing guy, and everyone will love you for it. So base placement, this can be placed anywhere, and here is the measurements for the foundation. This is a 6x4x9. I just used wood foundations. You could use marble, but there's no reason to use marble. This space does not get attacked. You're not going to be attacked at all. And the way this space works is we'll go by the 6. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 foundations. Then by 4, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is your outside layer. Now, I'll talk about the inside layer in a bit. This is just your foundation. And then we're going to go 9 blocks up because 9 is the height limit for bases. Well, small bases like ours. If you want to expand it, you can go a little bit taller, but it's not really worth expanding it over. You're better off just making more alt accounts, okay? So that's the foundation, but let's talk about the actual building itself. Now, the building itself is a 4x2x9, so let me explain. So, you're going to go 1 block, like here's the foundation. You're going to go 1 block, like in to the middle here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2. It's a very simple building. It's just a 4x2, and we go up 9 with walls. So let me show you inside. Again, these are foundations, and inside the building is 1, 2, 3, and this would be 4, but the height or the ground here was a little like exploding through the ground. I don't know, but it's a 4x2 on the inside, okay? And that's all the room you need, and that is the most optimal way to build this. Now, I'm going to talk about each floor. So each floor is a 4x2x2, so we've already looked inside. So we have, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 foundations on the ground floor, and then we have 1... Hold on, yeah. So let's look at a wall. That's 1 and 2, and then we go up 2. So this is 1 and then 2, and then you're gonna put down. Why can't I? I'm in build mode. And then you're going to put down ceilings. So you have 2 walls and then ceilings, and then on the next floor you repeat the same thing because you have the ceilings technically as your foundation. you leave space for 2 walls, and then you add another ceiling. And you're going to do that 4 times. Okay, so I'm going to show you the second floor. Second floor is 1, 2, ceiling. All right, it's really, really simple. If you've played any kind of Minecraft, this should make sense. Otherwise, feel free to ask me in the comments. I read every single comment, and I know building in these kinds of games might be confusing for some of you guys. I've been playing games for like my whole life, since I was 3 years old. This stuff is pretty basic to me, but for you guys it might be confusing. Again, feel free to ask. I read every single comment, especially on this video, not on a different one. But the final ceiling will be here on the roof, okay? And this is where you know, we talked about this earlier, the water systems. If you skipped ahead, then just go back a little bit. Look at the top of the video, the text, and it'll help guide you. Now, on each floor, you're going to place planter boxes starting at whichever corner you decide. The corner you choose does not really matter. Just do whatever makes you feel good. When I say a 4x8, I mean you have a row of 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you have a row of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Once you have that built for every floor, I'll tell you how to do the irrigation. So once you have all the planter boxes placed, preferably like neat and orderly. I have a little bit of space here. I'm not perfect. It's fine. It's whatever. Hopefully you don't have OCD. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the 3rd row of, so when I say row, I mean this 4, okay? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to go 3 forward from here. So this will be 1, 2, and 3. When we are on the 3rd row, we can delete a planter box and place an irrigation system in either spot. So you can place it in the 2nd slot, anywhere in the middle here. So you can place one here, or you can place one here. But then you're going to count 3 again from here. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3. Or you can just run to the other side of the room and then go forward 3. So here's 1, 2, and 3. They both work. Now what you're going to do is, because this irrigation is here, I don't want to put it here. I'm going to go opposite of this one by 1, delete that planter box, and place the irrigation facility there. And you're going to do that for every single floor. For lighting, the most simplest way is whichever row is touching the wall, you look up and you place your light in between the 4 roofs. So we have roof 1, roof 2, roof 3, and roof 4. And then your grow light will go in the center of the roof beams. That works most of the time. However, what you have to do is, once you have your lights placed, you have to check them. You have to go to each corner. So we're going to go to this corner, and then we're going to just highlight any seed and see what the lighting reads. The lighting is reading 80. It will be whatever you set your lighting to, or it will read 0. It will be nothing but in between, okay? It won't be like 40 or 50. If you have your lights set to 80, it will be 0 or 80. If it's 0, you're going to have to adjust your lights left and right, up and down very slightly until it hits all 4 corners, or until it hits every planter box. And you'll be able to see that it has a purple hue, but for some reason, sometimes it glitches out when you initially place it and it isn't shining properly. So just scoot it around a little tiny bit and it will fix itself. And that will just 2 lights will cover all your planter boxes. And the reason why it covers all your planter boxes is because the lights are 2 stories up. If you just have a short roof, it will like it'll like laser focus the light, and it won't cover as much range. So that's why we have 2 walls and then the ceiling, so that our planter lights will hit more crops. So your deviant cage placement doesn't matter too much. There is plenty of room, and you can do it however you like. You can even put them outside. Walls and doors do not matter. These creatures can teleport through walls, and they can just fly through walls. They don't care. Walls are a suggestion. But for me, I just crammed them all on the 1st floor, and yes, they will fly to upper floors. They actually prefer the higher up floors. If you plant crops on the top floors first and then come downwards, they will inhabit the top floor. If you plant the crops on the bottom floor first and then, work your way up, they will still, for whatever reason, inhabit the top floor. I don't know. The buzzy bees just like being up higher, I guess. I'm not really sure. But essentially just cram as many as you can in here. Now, because of my base, I'm actually missing a planter box. So I put a fridge here, and that's because I didn't build my foundations high up enough. So you want to make sure you build your base on flat ground, preferably, but that's fine. You know, I'm just missing one planter box. It's not a big deal. I'm not super OCD about it, but yeah, you can have 20 deviants with the upgrade, and your alt character does not need the upgrade. Whoever is doing the building needs the upgrade. Also, in case you're wondering, the deviant lights, like this is a blue light, this is a green light, these do not affect your crop growing at all. So if you had blue and green lights strewn on the ceilings for decorative purposes or whatever, like if you planted blueberries and you want blue light shining on blueberries, it's not going to mess up your lighting. As long as you have your grow lights, the lighting will not be messed up. Also, if you combine two of these grow lights, it does not like double the light on the planter box. As long as both lights are set correctly, that's the amount of light that your planter box will receive. Now let's talk about the best settings for irrigation and lighting. So there is a sweet spot for irrigation. At 70 irrigation, you will have the best irrigation for every crop in the game currently, except for sage and aloe vera, which require 80 irrigation. So let me explain and show you how irrigation works. So when I hover over this white petunia seed, you're going to have 3 colored bars: red, yellow, or orange, and blue. So the way it works is if I set my irrigation to 50 for these white petunias, the little irrigation arrow will be on the 50 mark, which you may think, oh, 50, that's in the blue. Wrong. 50 is actually in the yellow. And the way you can tell is by whatever, like look at your blue bar, because all we care about is the blue bar. The number on the left will always be the yellow value. The number on the right of that blue bar will always be in the blue value. So let me show you an example. We said aloe vera was one of them, right? So if we look at aloe vera, well, irrigation, the blue zone is between 71 and 90. So if I set my irrigation to 90, which you shouldn't do, but you can, it will be in the blue zone. But if I set it to 70, as you can see right now, it's set to 70. It is a yellow arrow. It is not a blue arrow. But when I look at Scarlet Calamus here, which that arrow is blue. So blue arrow, yellow arrow. So you always want to consider the number on the right side of that blue bar. And like I said earlier, 70 irrigation hits the blue zone for everything except sage and aloe vera. So aloe vera needs to be set to 80, and sage also needs to be set to 80. So you don't want to grow sage and aloe vera on a floor with anything else, really. It just makes it that simple. Lighting works the exact same way. Lighting, 80 lighting works on every crop in the game in the blue zone, except for bellflower and aloe vera. That pesky aloe vera. And I'll show you. So let's go to aloe vera once again. You can see that my lighting is set to 80. You can see that the arrow is red. And then, what did I say? Hold on, let me look again. It was bellflower. That pesky bellflower. Bellflower is also, again, red zoned at 80. So, you need to set your lighting to 90 for bellflower and aloe vera. Having a higher lighting or having a higher value on these blue bars does nothing. It does not give you a bonus. So setting your lighting to 100 doesn't do anything. Just keep it at 80 for everything except those two crops. Next up is how continuous planting actually works. So we have two options on the planter box. We have farming and continuous planting. So continuous planting is a translation error. So this is how it works. You click farming and whatever you want to plant, let's say I want to plant a blueberry seed, and then you pick your fertilizer or don't. Then once you plant this, you go over to your next planter and you push G, and it remembers all the settings from the previous planter that you did and puts that blueberry in there with that fertilizer you chose. So you just run up G, 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 and that's the quickest and easiest way to plant the crops. You don't have to open the menu and select the fertilizer each and every time, and because you have your irrigation system set up and you have everything sweet spotted, you don't have to worry about manually pouring bottles of water into your planter box or anything of the sort. So crop growing timers, I'm just going to go over every crop currently in the game and how long they take to grow. There are 3 tiers. There's the 1 hour, the 6 hour, and the 12 hour. I'm going to teach you how to heavily reduce these grow times down. You can have 1 hour become as quick as 20 minutes. And I'm going to teach you how to do that later in the video, so stay tuned. We have blueberry, orange, hawthorn for 1 hour. Then 6 hours we have beets, very important. I'm gonna tell you what to grow and what not to grow later in the video as well, if you're curious, because you don't need to grow everything. You just need to grow what your build is about and what your hive is about and what you want to sell, all right? And then the 12 hours is saffron and all of the herbs, as well as aloe vera, of course. Real quick, I've already talked about this in my other gardening video, but I'm going to do it again here just in case you don't want to watch that video for some reason. The growshroom, the rain man, and the buzzy bee. Let's talk about them. What are they? What do they do? Why do you want them? So, the buzzy bee are the little bee guys. Yeah! And what they do is they'll pick a crop and hover over it, pooping out pollen or something. I don't know how bees actually work, but by hovering over the planter box, they will increase its chance of deviation. A level 1 buzzy bee will increase it by 21%. The chance of deviation, I'm going to talk about this later in the video too, but it's an 8.333% chance to become deviated when you have 100 vitality, perfectly watered, perfectly lighted, without fertilizer and with fertilizer. And I'll talk about fertilizers later too, but you start with an 8.333% chance. So you add a level 1 buzzy bee, it adds 21% chance, making it a 29.333% chance to become deviated. Pretty darn good, kinda, sorta. That's what the game tells you, but it doesn't exactly work that good. Now, a level 4 buzzy bee, which I don't know which one of these is level 4, increases it to 32%, and then you add the 8.333% chance, but I don't think it adds properly, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. Next up is the Rain Man, and I guess it's resting, but essentially, it will hover over a plant and give it the perfect amount of irrigation. You don't need this because we have technology to do that for us. But if you want to just use him as a watering can, you kind of sort of can. You grab him manually, chunk him on the planter box, wait 1 second for him to start crying, then chunk him on the next. And that will perfectly hydrate whatever you have set down on that plot. You can't throw him on an empty planter box. You can only throw him on a plant. Then we have the growshroom. This guy will increase the speed of which a crop grows. Now, I did not test a level 1 growshroom, but I did test a level 4 growshroom, and it will cut down your time for the 1 hour. It will cut it down by 10 minutes. So it's a 10% at level 4. I don't know if levels affect it. I hope it doesn't. I didn't get to test that. But if you combine it with growth speed fertilizer, which I'm going to talk about later, you can make a 1 hour blueberry take only 20 minutes. You can make a 12-hour saffron only take like 4 hours, I believe. I have the data. I'm going to show you that in just a little bit. But also, the growshroom has a few other bonus features. And that is, he will automatically grab the crops for you when they are completely grown. But also, he will store them inside the cage. Now, crops do decay over time. They have, they spoil, they go bad. But a crop grabbed by a growshroom and shoved into his cage will never expire until you open the cage and look at it. Once you open that cage to look at what he has, that will start the decay timer. I will demonstrate this now with this fridge, because the fridge acts as the same way. With a fridge, you can make ice. Well, when you tell a fridge to make ice, it will hold the ice indefinitely, but as soon as you open it to check on the ice, it starts the decay timer. So I'm going to open the fridge, I have 100 ice cubes, and they are ticking down 29 minutes and 10 seconds remaining, right? So now if I close the fridge, right, if I close this menu and, wait a bit and reopen it, it's still decaying. Wait, what? 29:55. 29:54. Let's reopen. Did they change this? No, it's still decaying. It's still decaying. Okay, it was just the math was weird on it. It's whatever. Anyway, so that's how growshrooms work. You can use them to preserve your produce, and the coolest thing too is that it saves it to the growshroom. So if I just open my build menu and delete this building, when there's stuff inside of it. It won't go to my inventory. It will go to the growshroom, and the next time I put the growshroom in the cage, the items will return into the cage. Now, actually, let me do a little correction on that. The growshroom in the cage has to be on an alt character that does not own the growshroom. So, like, let's say, like, this growshroom, who owns it? I'm going to look at it now. The game will tell me. It is owned by Swolbenji on YT, which is my main character. Now, if I smash this isolated securement unit, the growshroom returns to Swolbenji on YT. It does not return to this character, Swolbenji alt. So that is how you preserve the items. But if Swolbenji on YT smashes the cage, and it's owned by Swolbenji on YT, then you will receive the items in the cage. So just be aware of that. It might be a glitch. Now, ideally, you want your base to have 20 level 5 Buzzy Bees. That's just the best base layout, really. If you do or don't need deviations, you don't really need Buzzy Bees. Now, some people are like, oh, you should do 19 Buzzy Bees and 1 Rebecca, or Mitsuko. I like to call her Mitsuko, on a piano. I did have one to show you, however, the character that I have it on is currently, how do I say it? In timeout for a week for trolling the whole server. Okay, I'm just gonna take a small little break real quick to explain to you. Right now in Prime Wars, you can fill up all the build slots, and no one can build cannons, and no one can build base defense, which means the boss walks right up to the objective and kills it, making everyone lose. And so I decided, because I'm a troll, I do love trolling, to block off every single Prime War there is. And so no one could do Prime Wars for the whole day, and yes, they all spammed reported, and so that character that I did it on got a 1-week ban. But the character's fully geared. I don't care about the Starcrom crap. I have 20 other characters I can play. I'm not worried about it. But that character had Mitsuko, and none of my other characters are geared enough to farm a Mitsuko, which is the Rebecca doll. But if you do have her, you would put her up above on a piano, and she'll play the piano and regenerate the mood of your Buzzy Bees faster. I have not tested if this is better than 20 Buzzy Bees, but I don't think it is. I just don't think so. And if you don't believe me, rewind the video and look at the world chat in the bottom left. They were whinging hard about me earlier. Now, Buzzy Bees, if you open their cage, they like music, they like crops and flowers. Now, crops are going to grow near them anyway, because look, as soon as I plant a crop, boom, done. If you want to plant one flower, which is a like bellflower, a white petunia, whatever, near them, that'll also make them happier. I have tested with and without flowers, and I noticed no difference in percent returns on deviations. I do have the music playing all the time. You just put a radio on top of their cage, and I have the music blocked for copyright reasons, because this game is just filled with copyrighted music. So let's talk about deviation odds. So the base value with 100 vitality on your plants growing, and that is just upon them becoming mature. To my experience, it does not matter if they were not 100 vitality before maturing, but keeping them at 100 vitality does help them grow faster by a few minutes. It's not a lot. So like a 1 hour blueberry will grow in 56 minutes if you keep it at 100 vitality. But the deviation odds, with perfect water and light, with no fertilizer or just regular fertilizer, I have noticed that just plain fertilizer doesn't do anything when you have the planter box and you have the water. Like, perfect water, lighting, and planter box is 100 vitality. You can't go higher than that. So plain fertilizer does nothing for you in my trials, okay? You have an 8.333% chance of deviation. Now, these numbers, I'm going to tell you right now, these numbers are from trial and error and spreadsheeting, and I have done 5 weeks of studying on 7 different characters, all on different PvE and PvP servers. And this is the numbers that I have gotten. They might not be absolute, but these are my numbers averaged across an insane amount of crop growing, like thousands and thousands and thousands. I've been doing this 19 hours a day, like almost. It's insane how much effort I put into getting these numbers. So again, they're not absolute. Now, a level 1 Buzzy Bee adds, the game tells you that it stacks with other additions. And the Buzzy Bee, it says it adds 21%. The level 4 says it adds 32%. I have found that these numbers are not correct. This is simply what the game tells you when you look at the tooltip, when you examine the plant. Alright? But I do have the math with 20 Buzzy Bees on my test, because yes, I did farm 20 Buzzy Bees on each character on each server. I'm not joking. I'm going to share that with you now. No, I'm going to share it with the fertilizer, which we'll just do the fertilizer next. This is going to be the most text-heavy part of the entire video, so feel free to pause and just read what I have typed out here on the screen, okay? I'm going to do my best to show the text properly and talk about it, so you can just listen. I'm going to do my best to explain it. But fertilizers, the improved compound, which is the mimetic fertilizer, which I would show you what that looks like, but that character is currently banned. So it requires 3 deviated mushrooms. This gives you a 66% average chance to deviate. Now, this does not stack with the Buzzy Bee. I have tried test samples with and without Buzzy Bees, and I get the same results when using this fertilizer. So the game lies, basically. Now, if this gets fixed, then a level 4 Buzzy Bee and this fertilizer will give you a 98% chance to deviate. So basically, always. Almost. Now, you also get +1 to crop yield. So instead of getting 5 regular crops, you will get 6 with this fertilizer. The fertilizer does not tell you this. But it also, the bad part about this fertilizer, it adds 50% growth time. So if you're growing something for 12 hours, it's now 18 hours. 1 hour becomes 1.5 hours, 6 hours becomes 9 hours. This makes it one of the worst fertilizers in the game, and I'm going to explain and show you the math in just a tiny bit, so it's not worth it. The yield boost, you may think, oh, I want yield boost, right? You would think that a fertilizer that gives you more yield would be best for getting more yield, but it's not, and I'll explain why. Yield boost gives you 3 extra crops. So, in this case, it costs 3 mushrooms to get 3 extra crops. You are essentially trading fertilizer and 3 mushrooms to get 3 crops, which the default return rate on a crop is 5, except for deviations. Now, deviated crops do not give you 3 crops. I wish it did. That would make this super useful. So, you should never grow this yourself. I'll explain why in just a bit. But if you are able to buy yield boost from others, it might be worth it. We'll talk about that. Now, we have breeding boost. Okay, now this just gives you an extra seed. This costs 5 scarlet calamus, not a big deal. It's worth it if you don't want to manually farm morel, which farming morel is easy. All you have to do is open food crates in high-level zones, and you'll get a bunch. So, I don't really use this, but if you get very unlucky and you just have 1 morel and you want more, then use breeding boost. But it'll cost you 12 hours, right? It's like, you can farm it faster than that, okay? Maybe aloe. Aloe's kind of annoying to farm too. Mutation boost. This costs 30 Stardust Source. If you don't have a way to get Stardust Source easily, you are screwed here. 5 mushrooms. Now, this gives you a 50% deviation chance. It doesn't stack with the Buzzy Bee, same with the other fertilizer. And, so, if it does stack, the base chance is 8.333. Buzzy Bee, level 1, 21%, and level 4 is 32, which we already covered that. Now, growth boost. This costs 1 apple and 1 fertilizer, I think, or 3 fertilizer, I forget. And the game says it doubles your crop growing speed, but it's a little bit faster than double. A little bit, not by much. So, for instance, if I grow a blueberry with the growth boost, instead of 30 minutes, it takes 28.5 minutes. I don't think that's server lag. I think that's just 50.9% or something silly like that, right? And with a growshroom level 4, this knocks it down to 20 minutes, or 1/3 of the time. And I found that it was 1/3 of the time every time for all crops, okay? So 12 hours became 6 with the fertilizer. 6 hours becomes 3. 1 hour basically, rounding up, becomes 30 minutes, okay? But with the level 4 growshroom, 12 hours and the fertilizer becomes 4 hours. 6 hours becomes 2 hours, and 1 hour becomes 20 minutes. You can literally spam blueberries and flood the markets with blueberry soda if you want. Now, the regular fertilizer, there is, like, nothing that this does, okay? With indoor crop growing and proper irrigation and lighting, your vitality is 100. And 1 seed will yield 5 crops, okay? And with the same deviation chance with and without fertilizer. So don't ever use regular fertilizer. Just don't, okay? So let's talk about the math on deviations, okay? Before we do that, I think I talk about it down below, but using the growth fertilizer, I just want to tell you, the growth boost, right? So get this, if you grow blueberries, it takes 1 hour for 5 blueberries. With growth boost, which costs 1 apple, which you can farm hundreds of apples in a minute by chopping trees, and repeatable forever. So farming apples is no time at all. You don't have to grow anything. You don't have to go out and pick anything. It's super easy to get apples. So you can grow 5 blueberries now in 30 minutes. Which means you can now grow 10 blueberries in 1 hour. Because you plant a blueberry, in 30 minutes you get 5, you plant it again, in 1 hour you get 5 more. With the yield boost, you will get 8 blueberries. And it will take you 1 hour to get 8 blueberries. Now, because we're in August, you get a +1 to yield. That's a seasonal thing that the game is giving us, so you would technically get 9, alright? But, so you're getting 9 per hour with the seasonal boost versus 10. And you're having to grow mushrooms to do it. So not only do you have to grow the mushrooms, which takes 6 hours to get 5 of those, if you don't manually go get them in the wild, like, it's just a huge time waste. Anyway, let's move on. Let's continue. And down here, we have math on deviations. Okay, so beets take 6 hours to grow. We have 120 planter boxes. With yield fertilizer, the average we get is 9 yields per box. I just talked about that. Or 1,008 T crops, if no deviations. We have the 8.333% chance to deviate with no buzzy bees, but buzzy bees is 21% plus 29, etc., etc. So 20 of our planters will get the bee buff, which will average 5.86 deviations. Our 100 other planters will not receive the bee buff, and will give us 8.333 deviated crops. Now, this will average to about 14.1996 deviated crops. But if you use the yield boost fertilizer, you will get an average of 20 crops, 20 deviated crops. So the August event will not give you a bonus to deviated crops, sorry to say. Now, beets are a 3-hour grow time with the growth boost fertilizer, so you can see here, you know, we will get 600 crops in half the time, or 1,200 crops in the same amount of time. So we will receive 120 more crops than the yield boost. Now, the average deviated crops is 14 without the yield boost, but if we double that number because we're getting it in half the time, we will get an average of 28 deviated crops, which is 8 more deviated crops than the yield boosted crops. So you really should never use yield boost over growth boost, okay? Hopefully this math makes sense to you. Now, if you deviate boost all 120 boxes, you'll get 60 average deviated crops and 300 regular crops. But it will cost you 3,600 Stardust Source. Now, if you compound fertilizer all 120 plots, you will get 79 deviated crops and 205 regular crops, but those 6 hours to grow the crop will take 9 hours because it adds 50% growth time. Or 18 hours if you're deviating the 12-hour ones, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to do some more math to show you why that's bad. So if you're growing a 6-hour crop, only for deviations, you don't care about the other ones. With compound fertilizer, you average 8.7 deviations per hour, technically. With the deviate boost, you average 10. Now remember, that one costs Stardust Source. Now with growth boost, that's the one that halves the time, you will get average 4.666 deviations per hour. So it's actually less deviations, okay? Now the yield boost is even worse, okay? It's 3.333 average deviations per hour. And with no fertilizer at all, it's not nearly as bad. Just showing how bad yield boost really is. 2.333 average deviations per hour. Now, if a patch fixes the buzzy bee stacking how it should be, like the game explains, this changes the math entirely. And so I went ahead and did that for you, just in case they ever fix it. So now compound is 13 average per hour. Deviate boost is still better. It's only slightly at 14 per hour. And then if you manually farm deviated crops in the wild, I can find 5 per hour if I try really hard and burn lots of fuel driving a car around. Now, with all of that talk about deviated crops, I just kind of want to explain why you should grow certain deviated crops. Just a real quick, you know, a summary, all right? Because you're like, why would I need deviated cucumbers? So here's why. Deviated cucumbers give you max load, they can help you lose weight, they can also reduce damage from players in PvP. I'm just going to scroll the list. Here's beets. I'm going to talk more about this per specific build, but if you're curious, like, why would I want a deviated onion? Those are hard to get. Well, you can one-shot a mining node with a pickaxe, but we have drills. It's kind of useless, isn't it? Don't you think? I think drills are better than pickaxes. Like mushrooms, though, they have a lot of uses. You can get 15% boss damage. And who is this? This is...
found you, Wagey.
Uh-oh. They called me a wagey, lads. What do I do? Anyway, I'm going to keep that in the vid because it's funny. Why not? All right, so mushrooms. You get 50% boss damage. You can also... oh, it's for fertilizer growth. It's 20% damage with bullseye targets, 20 stam, 30 stam recovery. Who cares about stam recovery, right? Peppercorns let you gain weight with fish and chips. There's a whole lot of uses. I'm just going to scroll it real quick. You can pause the vid if you are curious. Let's see. What else we got here? Yeah, that's basically it. Now, I want to talk about the practical uses for crops, okay? So beets, their only purpose is to become sugar. Sugar and wheat makes bread for alt leveling. Sugar and water makes sanity gummy for alt leveling. You can also sell these for 45 each. Sugar and shellfish and water is a 5% vulnerability debuff on hit. More on that later, because when I tested it, that's like 10,000 DPS to like any build. I know 5% vulnerability sounds like nothing, but it's 10,000 DPS on a target dummy. It's crazy good, and it scales the harder you hit. So sugar with saffron and water and aluminum is Stardust energy drink, and I think, in my opinion, that is the best way to make energy links from vendors in the whole game, with a mimetic specialization that gives you double canning. I have an entire separate video on this subject that should be out before this one, so just click the link in the description about, like, it should be titled, like, 500,000 energy links an hour method or something, which it is. Okay, so blueberries and glass is blueberry soda. This is for alt leveling, phase 1 moneymaker, astral sand moneymaker, I guess. Oranges work too, but it's easier to get blueberries. Oranges are kind of hard. Wheat and corn and pure water can be put in the brewing barrels for ales, for energy links, or sanity protection. 100% sanity protection buff, which means on those encounters, which are later in the phases, I'm not going to spoil it, your sanity will just drain and drain and drain until you're like 25% max HP in like 10 seconds. So if you don't have alcohol, you basically lose the fight. It's kind of a gear check. Peppercorn, meat, and salt becomes an acid from mobs buff. So 5 acid drops, which is the highest I've found in the game, becomes 7 acid. It's not that good. Morel and a fish and corn oil is the mining yield up to 6,666% chance. I've never seen it proc, though, but it's pretty good for just mining in general. So you can have build-specific focuses. So for energy links, I like to sell iced tea, which is bellflower, sage, honeysuckle, scarlet calamus, coneflower, and yellow lotus. For Stardust energy drinks is saffron and sugar. For PvP, you need deviated cucumbers. For Bounce, Fast Gunner, Fortress Warfare, and Shrapnel builds, you need deviated pumpkin for crit damage, deviated beet for weak spot damage, deviated mushroom for boss damage, deviated potato for 20% damage with Fortress Warfare buff, which is really good, and beets become sugar for that 5% vulnerability on hit. Burn and Power Surge builds need deviated mushroom, and some of these are repeated. Like, we have the boss damage again, the 20% damage of Fortress Warfare. Aloe, Blueberry, and Hawthorn is a 20% debuff duration food. Not deviated, just regular. Deviated Saffron for that status damage. More on that in a bit. And again, a lot of these are repeat. Like, Frost Vortex, you know, there is a special one here. That is the deviated aloe vera, which gives you 15% crit rate when the enemy is standing in a Frost Vortex. The Bullseye has a special one too, I believe, and that is deviated mushroom, boss damage, or 20% damage on marked target. Unstable Bomber, I don't think they have a special one, so I just listed all the regular damage ones that were in the video earlier. Now, I want to talk about the deviated saffron, which is the whimsy drink, or whimsical drink, which I can't show you because it's on my main. Oops. And that's another 10 to 20k DPS boost. It's a drink. It's a drink. It's not a food. It's a drink. So the buff stacks with food buffs, so you can double dip into damage. Now, Shrapnel, does have a food buff, which is not listed here, but the reason it's not listed here is because it's salted meat. It has nothing to do with growing crops, which is what this video is about. And there you have it. That is a crop growing video with this schematic, with this knowledge. You have everything that you need to become the tycoon of your server, to grow everyone the deviated crops and deviated food buffs that they might want. I have checked on 7 different servers, and I have checked every single world's vending machines, and no one sells this stuff. So I think that you could either make a lot of energy links by selling it to players. You would be an absolute crucial key player in your war band if you grew crops for them and cooked them delicious food buffing meals. And these bees are pushing me around. They push me off. It's kind of, I mean, I did jump off a little bit. But essentially, with this tiny little alt base, super tiny little alt base, you're going to have more than enough alcohols. Someone grabbed those. Someone definitely, yeah, someone looted a bunch of those. What the hell? But you're going to be able to just grow like crazy. And the coolest thing is it's like automated. The only thing you occasionally have to do is go to a river and scoop up some dirty water and put it on the top. That's literally it. And then the whole base does it for you. If you want more growshrooms to plant, and growshrooms will replant crops too. I forgot to mention that. You can give them seeds and they will just fill up your planters, but they will not refertilize them. So that's kind of why I don't really recommend growshrooms too much. They don't refertilize. And fertilize is really key if you're actively playing. Obviously, if you're going to go to bed, you can't sleep 3 hours. I mean, I can, but you probably can't. Sleep 3 hours and then wake up and then replant your crops, right? Like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So you would just not fertilize them. And then when you wake up, they're fully grown, ready to go, right? So that's the video. Thank you so much. This took 5 to 7 accounts, I forget how many, that I've been running on different servers, PvE and PvE, to collect all of this data. I could not figure out a more functional, easy to build, simple grow house. I didn't want to make it too complex with star designs. Like, you could make a star-cross design with slightly more floors, but it's really inefficient for power usage. It's very not user-friendly. This is square, basic, simple. I could build this thing with like 1 hour of sleep while I'm being distracted by like 3 different people's conversations. This has got to be the simplest base ever to build. You just throw it on an alt, you're done. The materials are... I don't have the blueprint because I'm on an alt character. But let's just save it, and then I'll show you the material cost, which it's not going to list all the materials. There we go. So material cost, you can see it's not a lot. It's like 1,510 wood, 220 gravel, 180 metal scraps, 135 copper ingots, and 90 glass. It is cheap as hell. Now, of course, it doesn't have like the barrels down here. And you can see that I didn't even finish the foundations down here. I just have this weird one kind of hovering. But yeah, this is the base, and it's pretty cool. And you've already seen what it looks like in the game. But yeah, there's like, you know, the grow lights and stuff. It's just a really good base that you should absolutely have. I think everyone should be growing food and crops. It's really simple once you know what you're doing, and hopefully this video helped you. Please leave a like, because I'm very quickly becoming a villain in this game by shutting down those primors, dude. Dude, it's funny. I made a fun memory. They'll remember me 10 years later. I think I did my job, and I was pretty bored, so I don't mind sitting out on that account for a week. Who cares? I've got 19 more accounts, you know, that I can play on. It's no problem. I can still make videos, guys. And it actually motivated me. I was just gonna shitpost in world chat all night, but because I got the ban, I'm like, I'll make a video. Anyway, so maybe I'll be uploading more often and not shitposting as much. But thank you again for watching. Please leave a like before you go. And Matt Nutcracker's a little creepy over there, isn't he? And please click the video on the right side of your screen. If you do, then you're going, like, if you have food in your fridge that's expired by like a day or two, it will still be fresh. So by clicking the video on the right side of your screen right now, you will extend the freshness of your food for a few days. And I'm not liable if that doesn't actually happen, okay?